This is Margaret, and this picture is of my dad in his late 90s. As you can see, his smile, which he gave away so freely, really was like the sunshine. It warmed all those around him. And this is Bruce, my husband. Dad lived with us for 9 years. We're going to start this story with Dad's 100th birthday party, which took place in our home with Dad's 6 children and other family.
And there's a day in every year reserved for celebrating the good guy that you are.
Oh.
And the good guy that I am. Thank you.
Margaret.
Oh, that's lovely.
You got a present.
That's lovely.
There you go.
Hello, everybody. I'll see you later. Oh, look at this. Thank you. Thank you.
A flannel shirt.
I look pretty good in that, won't I?
You will. You'll look great in it.
Who's that?
David and Janine.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
David, you have to show them how this works.
Okay.
I don't know. It's weighted for us. Yeah, put it on the rib of
If
the...
it falls, it won't fall apart.
Oh, I wish it were my birthday and I could play with it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay. Happy birthday to me.
Grandchildren
I'm a spoiled young man.
So the rest of us, well, she...
Now a happy birthday to the lot of you. It's a happy birthday for the group.
That was vintage Dad. He loved connecting with people, had a great sense of humor, and was full of gratitude. He was a first-generation American growing up in Austin, Minnesota with Swedish parents. He's a soldier in World War II, a journalist and then business executive, and he and Rosalie were married for over 46 years. The father of 3 daughters and 3 sons, the Boomers, and grandfather and great-grandfather of many. So my dad was a solid patriarch of the family who reached the age of 100. Where's the story in that? Well, I'm curious. From what you've seen so far, are you surprised to hear that he probably didn't know who was celebrating his birthday with him? He sure knew he loved them and was loved, but not that all of his children were present. Or that when Dad moved in with us, at the age of 92, he didn't recognize a portrait of my mother. That on some days, he wouldn't remember my name. That he never really knew that he had moved from Ohio to Virginia. He always, though, remembered who he was. But this is a story of the 9 years my dad, who had dementia, lived with us. Years that were really full of humor, family, and love. And it wasn't a good life in spite of having dementia. Some of it was because of it. And a quick disclaimer. This is no how-to story. We took one day at a time. And I do realize how fortunate we were. Dad could take care of most of his personal needs, didn't need an eye on him until he was 97. He did not wander, get paranoid, delusional, or lash out. His general health was okay for his 90s. I don't know how common this presentation of dementia is, but it was our experience. So the rest of the story is from 2 perspectives. One is about Dad's life, and the other about his impact on others. In many ways, dementia didn't change the routine of Dad's daily life. Every day he read the Washington Post. He never seemed to retain the stories, but he certainly got engrossed in them. I have childhood memories of Dad doing his crossword puzzle. He continued doing that until his late 90s. It was a cozy way to spend time with Dad. Dinner together was important to all three of us. Dad still said grace before dinner every day, sometimes crystal clear, like you'll see. And Dad was pushed back when our table manners didn't meet his standards, with a sense of humor, of course. The dinner table could bring up very clear memories for Dad, like a traveling circus when he was young. And think about what a Prohibition-era generator might look like.
Bless us, O Lord, these thy gifts we have all received from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. Partridge in a pear tree. My house is little impolite, singing at the family tree. At the family table? Good. But go ahead, enjoy it, Joy. I enjoy it. Sing another song for me.
Reading a book about circus in the 1930s.
Circus 1930. I worked with them then. I came to town. I was a sophomore in high school. And then just get over and get some extra work done. They put up a tattoo and
Yeah.
Oh, it was all crazy trash.
Yeah.
And they got a pass to the circus.
Yeah.
But you gotta bring somebody else in to do that. We used to call them generators, not pass them. Generators.
Another lifelong characteristic of Dad was puttering around, helping out and keeping his hands busy, preferably outside. In his early years, he could do active tasks like raking the leaves or pinning a small fence. In his later years, it would be sit-down activities like helping me repot begonia plants or build wire cages to protect our hostas. On his alert days, his hands were steady and his mind engaged.
You put the string through it out in the back to you. You want to do it that way.
Okay, so if I put it through there,
Okay. Where you want it?
back up through here maybe. That's the highlight of any day for Dad was going for a car ride.
So is there any route we should take? You guys are not riding lately? We were out in Lewisburg yesterday and drove around some of the back country there. So should we maybe do the DC route?
A younger Dad thought nothing of driving from Cleveland to Columbus. Now he loved being driven, anywhere. We were lucky to be near D.C., so there were always sights to see. Walks were another long-time habit for Dad, and he kept up until he was about 98 years old. Here he's walking with myself, my brother David, and Bruce's mother Sally. Of course, Dad loved having his family around, and they visited from near and far, from Tennessee, Connecticut, Denver, Ohio. He may not have always remembered who they were, but he knew they were precious to him. I think ever since Prohibition, no day was complete for Dad without a cocktail or a glass of wine. And he loved opportunities to play around. The story so far has been about Dad's active life. Realistically, though, a lot of his time was spent sitting in either his recliner in the sunroom or out in the garden when the season was right. He enjoyed watching the birds and squirrels and thinking about whatever it is he thought about. And I can't forget that he watched Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy every night. And he dozed a lot. He was in his 90s after all. I think you've got a pretty good snapshot of his life, with or without dementia. He was always Earl. So now the story shifts to the impact Dad had on others, including me, his daughter and primary caregiver. What was it like to have responsibility for Dad for all those years? Was it a burden? Did it wear me down? And what about other family and friends? How did they react to this old guy with dementia? For me, taking care of Dad was pretty easy until he reached about 97. I worked from home, but had outside client and company meetings to attend. Dad could safely be left alone and keep himself occupied. My sister Rosemary lived nearby and was great backup for vacations and evenings, and weekly drives. When Dad got more physically unstable, more incontinent, and required oversight, I had outside help 3 to 4 days a week. I didn't have daily outside help until Dad's last month. As far as stress goes, I'll let the following video do the talking for me. It's from a spirituality workshop in early 2011, soon after Dad's 100th birthday. As you'll see, I ended up giving an impromptu testimonial on life with Dad. I have my in-house guru is my dad, who has lived with us for 8 years. He just turned 100. He's in pretty good health. He's not in any pain, and he doesn't have much memory, which means he can only live in this moment. And he doesn't worry about anything because he doesn't have any memories to take forward. And he gets excited about, he may call a squirrel a bird, but he loves seeing it. He's, in the skies and a beautiful day, he's like, oh, what a beautiful day. And he brings that every day. And 8.5 years, every night when we put him to bed, he thanks us. And I'll walk by sometimes and I hear him say, thank you, Lord, for taking such good care of me. He's not, I don't think of him as religious, but it's just there. And he brings such joy to anyone who visits because he sees them. He really sees them. And he wants to know when they're going to be back. And if it's next week, oh, so, not until then? And you promise you'll be back? And everybody leaves thinking, they are so loved by him. So he's my in-house guru. Dad died on June 15th, 2011, about 4 months after my in-house guru testimonial. A friend who had seen Dad regularly for 5 years wrote to us, I am so blessed to have known your dad. He was such a kind spirit. Whenever I think of him, I will always remember how much he taught me. I watched his joy and gratitude for each day and everything it offered. I watched his appreciation for each person who graced his life, whether it was with a smile, a warm hello, or a piece of candy. He was able to see joy even in the most difficult days and make you feel as if you were the only person in the world. He taught me how to live, and I will miss him terribly, but I will remember. I wonder sometimes what Dad's reaction would have been if he had known when he was 60, 70, or 80 that he was going to live his last decade with few specific memories, limited mobility, hearing loss, being dependent on his family each and every day. I imagine he would have been horrified. Who wouldn't be, given our limited experience so far with the very aged, our fear of dementia and of being a burden on our children, and our ingrained belief of what makes life worth living? But if Dad hadn't taken his path, he would have missed out on years of peace, love, and gratitude. I don't know if he ever realized how much joy, laughter, and love he brought to us. My life and the life of my family and friends would have been so much poorer without him. Heartbreakingly so. Thank you, Dad.